2021, four men got together to make a radio show that nobody asked for. This is the result.
Welcome to Broad Street Radio. I'm Michael Morris, sitting here by myself, except for my good friend Stan Willis, who's sitting in for all three other guys. Stan, no pressure. You just have to carry the show today.
Hey, it's not a problem for me.
See, I knew we'd do a good show because in the parking lot, he pretty much promised it was going to be excellent or at least mediocre, which is the same thing when the other guys are here. Yeah. Stan, first of all, let people know who you are and who you're with.
All right, my name's Stan Willis, as you said. Thought I'd repeat that.
Esquire.
No,
the Esquire's for me, not for you.
Okay.
I know how much you don't like that. The Esquire's for me.
I'm all good about Esquire. You know, it's a great magazine. There are pictures, lots of pictures, not much reading.
I read it for the articles. That's it.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Read it for the articles. I'm from Willis Spangler Starling. We're in Hilliard. We do a lot of different things. We do workers' comp, social security, disability, personal injury, estate planning, probate, employment law, bankruptcy, consumer law, and foreclosure defense.
Yeah. It's a Waffle House of items that you guys do. Here's my number one question whenever I'm talking to lawyers. Do you ever feel like you're sitting at home watching things on TV? Do you cringe a lot when you see the commercials for other lawyers?
Oh, yeah.
Because that's not, I mean, we're all, first of all, if you're watching it on YouTube, you're seeing a lot, you're not seeing the commercials. We're seeing it here unless you're in Columbus. I'm not a lawyer, but when I see those, I kind of get douche chills from it where I'm like, why would you do that? Mm-hmm. It's your profession. So when you see it, you kind of go, oh, I wish I was run over by a car now so I didn't have to see it.
Yeah, there's some good ones. You know, there are good ones.
I'm just talking about the ones where you're just kind of like
there are some that make you go, really, somebody should have stopped this.
But doesn't it give as I've explained to you before, and other people might not know, I did a year's worth of a law show. Uh-huh. And I will say the thing about that was it was very to the point. It almost seemed like there was a lot of tension in there. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So you either have that where that's what people think of it, or they think everything can get solved in 44 minutes on TV, right?
Right.
So the consumer, really, they're coming to you because you're an expert and they're in pain, not physically, but maybe mentally, whatever. Solve this problem. Yeah. Do you think that we don't understand the law as regular people? So we don't understand the timelines. We don't understand what goes into all this?
Well, I think the average person probably is somewhat unaware of the way the process works because people are always surprised by the process.
Right.
People are surprised by how long it takes. People are surprised by what goes into it. And, you know, lawyers, you know, in defense of my profession, it's a high stress environment. You're dealing with people who are going through possibly the worst thing they've ever had to face. You know, like if you're going through your first divorce, that's probably the worst thing you've ever had to deal with. If you're coming into my office because you're filing bankruptcy, you're not in a good place.
Right.
If you're coming in for an estate, that means that someone you know has died. You're not in a good place. With workers' comp or personal injury, that means you've been hurt. And you can't work and you can't get paid and you don't understand what's going on. So people are going through some really tough things. So they're stressed out. And so because of that, you know, we're dealing with a lot of people who are who are going through some really stressful times. So attorneys get pretty stressed out. It's a pretty high stress environment. You have a lot of deadlines and a lot of things that have to happen. And, you know, of course, in the average person's world, like if you're a contractor and you build something wrong, you tear it down, you rebuild it.
Right.
In my world, if you mess something up, you just ruin somebody's life and you get sued.
So it's a thing for young kids to get into because you'll just enjoy it.
Yeah.
Well, it almost seems like when it's happening that people are, again, it's the worst of the worst by the time they get to you.
Right.
Now they want you to solve it.
Right.
So now all the heat's on you. Now, I don't want to make you nervous, but I'm looking at it from the opposite side. It's almost like they're transferring their pain to you. So it's like, oh, I've got a lawyer. They're going to take care of it. Mm-hmm. Not understanding the timeline of how long it takes to even just get a court date or just to get the ball rolling. What was it like when you first started a firm or you're doing it? Like, you had to take that home with you at night.
Oh yeah, at first it was awful, and you know I was I was a well-seasoned attorney who'd been out of school for an entire year when I went out.
My God, all that time.
Yes. So I was well-seasoned, well-experienced, and ready to go with all of my knowledge that I had gained as in-house counsel for a construction company. So, when somebody came in and said, I want to do all this stuff, I was saying, we have to write you a will. What's that look like? Yeah. So,
I'm going to Google what is a will.
You couldn't Google back then. Remember, I'm old.
I'm trying to give you credit because if someone's just listening to audio, they're going to think you're 31 years old.
Yeah, this was 92 when I opened practice.
There wasn't even Priceline or Google or any of that stuff back then.
Didn't even have a cell phone, dude. I didn't have a cell phone until like 94, 95.
So you must have, when that flip phone came out, you must have blown your wig.
Oh my gosh, that was awesome. Do you remember the ones? Okay, so I had one that was attached to my car. A cell phone. So you had the car phone and
the Michael Douglas Wall Street phone.
Yeah, that was awesome. In fact, I used to show people that just because, I'd be like driving around like I'm on the phone even when I wasn't, because it was.
I remember you only used it because it was something like $7,000 a minute.
Oh yeah,
and my mom had one, but it was only for emergencies. I'm like, we've driven in a ditch. We can't use it right now. This is not an emergency. The car's on fire. No, we're not using it.
Well, there was that, and there was the fact that if you were a mile outside of town, you didn't have service because there weren't any towers.
Right. So the phones always looked cool, but the service was garbage. But if you whip that Razor phone out, it's like that guy has $400. He's a big deal. But yeah, so when you're starting in 92. See, this is the part I think people should understand. Like, I love this part because I've heard these horror stories of getting your practice going. Mm-hmm. So in 92, someone comes to you and it's the worst thing ever. Are you like, what's that movie, The Rainmaker, where you just have some shady office or something and someone walks in like, I lost my arm. Okay, let me figure out how to fix this.
It's probably worse than that. So my office was at 501 South High Street. So at the time, Capital Law School was right where Grange Insurance is. And then across the street, I don't know if you remember the Claremont. The Claremont was down there. Yeah. And so my office was on the other side of the Shell station going north from where Grange.
Just so I can paint a picture, this is a super uber fancy area that he's describing. Because the best homeless hang out by the Shell station. So, yes. So you're right there by the Claremont.
Right there by the Claremont. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. But the cool thing was I could walk down to Highbeck, at lunch. So that was cool. But so we were in the basement. So I shared office space in the basement with some other guys that were, poor like me and hanging up their shingle and thinking, this is going to be awesome.
Did you do that thinking people were just going to walk in off the street? Like that show Ed, where the guy's in a bowling alley. Did you think it was going to work like that?
Well, it's kind of you just kind of think, you just hang up your shingle and
you're in business.
You sit and wait for the phone to ring.
Right.
and you tell all your friends. There was no Facebook. There was no internet really. And nobody could afford to take out ads.
Right.
So. I had business cards made. That was my marketing experience.
You were handing them out at lunch while you're having like two martinis. You're like, no, I'm serious. I'm a lawyer. Yeah. Like Family Guy, you're just throwing him in the air. Call me. So when you're starting this practice out, what was your main focus for? Because it's just you, right? So
it was just me. And so I my undergraduate's in civil engineering, and I worked as an engineer for a little bit before I went to law school. And then my first job was in-house counsel for a construction company. So I had some connections in the construction industry. So at first, most of my clients were contractors, and I was doing, whatever little disputes they got into.
Had to be a ton of workers' comp.
Well, I didn't actually do the workers' comp because I was representing the employers.
Oh, that's true.
Not the guys. I would defend a few workers' comp claims back in the day, but never ended up. My wife always did workers' comp on the employee side. So I never ended up having to argue against her. That would have been embarrassing. I would have lost.
I was just gonna say, you can't argue with her during the day and come home like nothing happened, right?
Right. You can't do that unless you lose,
or unless somebody in your firm is a divorce attorney that's going to help you guys out, and you're the principal. So to your, I guess, career path. Was there a specific thing in law that you were interested in, or was it like me when I'm like, I see this on TV, I could argue all day?
I think I went into law because I really didn't like engineering very much. And I was looking for something where I could go out and kind of do my thing and it sounds cliche because you want to help people, but you also want to make money.
Right.
So you
Well, there
kinda
is
have-
no true altruism,
Right.
right? So it's like you're going to get paid for it. So it's like,
Right.
I really helped you out and you wrote me a $15,000 check. I technically won in this situation, but you don't have a finger, but at least somebody paid you for it,
right.
right?
So it's not, but you're kind of helping people through a complex system. You're kind of, you're advising people. I always wanted to kind of do that kind of thing. And it's interesting. I was doing mostly construction law through about 97 or so. And in 97, there was the beginning of the crash that ended up in 98. And like all the construction work dried up within about a 6-month period.
Right.
So I went from there and did part-time as an in-house counsel for a mining company, and then was just doing writing wills for people and stuff on the side, and found out there's a lot of work out there in things other than construction law.
Right.
And so then I kind of just did whatever walked in the door for a while. And then
But
Kelly
see,
joined me
that's the
for-
coolest thing. It's kind of like when you see it on TV. I'm going to take whatever walks in.
Uh-huh.
Did you like the challenge of that? Because I know a lot of people are like, they want to get into, I want to be a domestic attorney, or I want to work for some big firm. I think it's cooler when you're like a jack of all trades and you're not really a master of any at this point.
Yeah, and I tried to do that for a while, and it is kind of fun for a while. But after a while, you get tired of doing all the research. Every time somebody walks in the door, I get okay. Well, here's 20 hours of my life I'm never getting back because I got to go figure out how to do this.
Right.
And anymore, the volume of laws in every discipline is so big that you can't, if you're practicing in more than one or two areas of the law that aren't really related, it's almost impossible to do because you can't keep up with it.
Well, because it keeps expanding its territories, right? So it's
Right.
kind of like you can't be in three different areas,
Right.
and keep up with three different growths in those. Especially when you look at the .com thing, that was going to change everything. But now there's so many different levels of every single business is changing. It's got to be hard to be really great at one thing by itself.
All right. That's why if you look at the way our firm is laid out, we have 4 attorneys who do workers' comp because that's how much work we have there. But also, all they do is workers' comp because it's a huge area.
Right.
It's a huge set of laws and statutes that apply to that, and it's hard to practice anything else. We have one attorney who all she does is personal injury. One attorney, all he does is employment law. Another attorney who only does Social Security. And our bankruptcy attorney is the closest thing we have to a jack of all trades. He kind of dabbles with that and the estate planning and probate and stuff.
Well, I want to talk about 2 things you brought up. I want to talk about workers' comp and bankruptcy. I'll let you pick which one you want to go.
Okay. Let's go with bankruptcy.
Perfect. Let's go workers' comp. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay. So speaking of workers' comp.
Speaking of what you don't want to talk about, what I was interested to know is when we have Jonathan, who's normally here, R.I.P. because he's at a golf outing. We always start off the show with what's kind of going on in the world financially, like what you need to know, not
Right.
touting a stock, but like here's the things you need to know to take care of yourself.
Right.
So like with the estate tax issue going up and the average tax rate going up, that's the big part. But when we're looking at bankruptcy and workers' comp, I might be wrong, but I think some of those are tied together or could be.
There is a correlation because most of the time, the hard thing about workers' comp is that when somebody's hurt enough that they can't work, most employers don't continue your wages. Most of the time, most of them don't fire you for
Right.
getting hurt because that would be retaliation, and that's illegal, and we can get money for that too, by the way. But most of the time, they don't fire you, but they're not paying you while you're off. And if anyone contests the claim, and there are some large employers, I won't start naming names or anything.
I'll name them after he leaves. And Nate, put it in the end of the show. I'll put a long list, and we'll just put a picture of Stan next to it.
These people are awful. Don't work
Yeah,
now.
he said verbatim.
But some employers literally fight every claim. I mean, some employers, that's just their workers' comp policy. That's the way we deal with this. We just fight every claim. Well, it might be 8, 10, 12 weeks before we're able to get through the hearing process to get you started on temporary total disability in order to get your pay, which is now reduced because you don't get full pay when you're on workers' comp. You get, I think it's 2/3 of your pay.
Right.
Well, think about going 3 months without a check. Most people can't do that.
Right.
Most people can't go 2 weeks without a
But
check.
isn't that the point of it? I'm going to stall you out to either you're going to leave and go get a job, or you're going to take whatever I'm on, or come back to work.
I can't say that's what they're thinking for sure, but it sure seems that way, doesn't
Well,
it?
corporations are evil,
Yeah.
but according to the law, they're also people.
Yeah.
But in that scenario, I can understand, like, you have people, let's give the most famous example ever. When the Brady's got in a car accident and the guy was wearing the thing around his neck, which is probably rule number 1 in law school. We probably watched that. And then
They give us each one of those as we graduate.
yeah, like a VHS copy. And then, Bobby throws the briefcase and he turns around. We know he's faking that injury. And I think everyone thinks that's how workers' comp works.
Well,
yes or no?
That's the
the Bobby Brady defense.
That's the bias. The bias that's out
Right.
there is that you're not hurt. You can work. What's wrong with you?
Right.
The interesting thing, though, is the people who are saying that typically don't have those jobs. I mean, if you were a plumber, for instance, where you're down on your hands and knees and getting up and down and you're lifting things in awkward ways and all that kind of stuff, something that I live with every day, you can't do that job.
Right.
You can't do that job if you get that injury. And most people who are plumbers or carpenters or that kind of thing, they haven't gone through the education that they would need to go through in order to go work in a call center or something like that. They can't operate all that stuff. That's not what they were trained to do. They're trained to go out and fix things. And so, when that guy gets hurt and can't work, it's devastating. But I mean, I know that with the injuries that I have, which don't stop me from doing my current job, I don't think I could go out and be a plumber.
Right.
I mean, I just don't think I could do it all day, every day. So the level of injury that it has to take in order to not be able to do some of these jobs is, it's a different threshold than the level of injury it would take to prevent you from getting up in the morning, driving to your office, walking in, sitting down at your desk and working all day.
Right.
It's a whole different threshold of injury.
I also think that, I guess if you look at, people always cite like the McDonald's case with coffee, like we're a very litigious society. So you're going to see these crazy lawsuits, but it gives the profession a bad name when it is, first of all, as you probably know this case, that was a much bigger deal than somebody spilled coffee.
Right. Well, and that's the media as a whole doesn't do us any favors.
Are you going to bash the media on this show?
I am not.
I hope that you are. I hope that you are.
I'm not publicly going to bash the media. I'm just going to say that quite often things are not as they appear, or as that we're told they appear.
Right.
Well, that McDonald's case, I mean, I don't know if you know all the
I
all
saw
the
the documentary on it, and it is horrifying.
Well, first of all, that McDonald's had something like 80 complaints about the temperature of the coffee in the 30 days before that happened, and just refused to turn it down.
Right.
And I think coffee's on average served around 130 or 40 degrees or something like that.
Yeah, this was like lava in a pot.
And it was like almost 200 degrees, right? And they just refused. I mean, they were like refusing to turn this down. And this poor woman had 3rd-degree burns
from her waist down, and some got on her arms and all that. I mean, it was a horrifying thing.
Yeah.
But you hear that, and then people go, oh, lawyers are chasing every ambulance. And I don't know. You said that you were hurt. I don't know how many you're running behind.
Right.
So I don't want to offend you if you're doing that. But there are people that look at the law and say, that's all they do. They're just looking for money.
Right.
Well, you guys aren't pounding the streets waiting for someone to get hit by a taxi and handing out a card. They're coming to you because they need help.
Right. Typically, yeah.
So we have a perception of how law should be as an everyday person. Does it ever offend you that people don't understand? I don't mean like you personally where you're crying and watching The Notebook and eating ice cream. I mean like, but that's your chosen profession, right? It's like a dentist. All they want to do is get hair plugs and have a nice car and a house and a second wife.
Right.
But people hate going to the dentist. People don't like it when they go to a lawyer because something's wrong, right? I'm going to bring my horrible shit into your office and I expect you to fix it.
Right.
Right. And that how it kind of like.
That is the way it goes. And, I think there's a lot more buyer's remorse with what we do than there is. For instance, let's say you're at your house and you walk downstairs and there's an inch of water in your basement. So you call the plumber, you're all in a panic, right? The plumber comes out, the plumber does his thing. He gives you a bill for $5,000. The restore people come out, they do their thing. They give you a bill for $10,000. And you walk down in your basement and there's no water and everything's clean and you go, oh, I paid for that. When you get divorced, for instance,
it's amazingly
you
great.
walk into you.
Sorry, I didn't know where you were going. I jumped the gun. I'm sorry. You guys should all do it though. If you can get divorced, dude, don't listen to Stan on this one. But go ahead.
You go into your attorney's office. You pay your attorney. Honestly, 30 or 40 grand if it's contested. I mean, it's maybe 60, maybe. I mean, it's expensive to get divorced. And you do all that and you feel really bad during the whole process and it feels really crappy. And then you get done with your divorce and you go home to your apartment and you're sitting there alone and you feel like you got screwed because half your stuff's not there.
Right.
And your spouse isn't there and you're fighting about your kids still and it doesn't feel better. And you can't put your hands on, well, this is what they did for me. Even though there was no way you were going to walk through the process and get it done, especially if the other side's represented by a lawyer. There's no way that you're going to get a better shake from the system unrepresented.
But that is such an the way you described it now I got it. Because when you said buyer's remorse, I'm thinking if I was in a car accident, you wouldn't go back and go, you couldn't negotiate that better. Like that was what I thought you meant. I get where you're going with that now.
Yeah, well, it's the same with an injury. I mean, you go out and you look at everything, and what most people do is they say, well, the policy limits were $100,000. I feel like I should have gotten a lot more than that, but that's all the insurance they had. Right. And I'm writing my lawyer a check for a third of this, and I'm paying medical back for this much, and I'm only getting this much, and that's not fair. But the fact is that most of the time, I don't remember the exact stat, but people who are represented do significantly better than people who are unrepresented in these cases.
Well, it's kind of like buying a house, right? If you buy a house on your own without any education or knowledge, you're probably going to get hosed.
Yeah.
But if you get representation, you're going to feel like you got hosed. Like, I got to write you a check to defend me when I was wronged. It's like, yeah, that's kind of how the system works.
Well, and here's the thing. Like, I'm an attorney. I wouldn't sell my house without a realtor.
Right.
I wouldn't go buy a house without a realtor. I just wouldn't do it.
But see, most people think they start to do the numbers poorly, and they think they're going to save themselves money. But I can tell you right now, if I was in a courtroom, Your Honor, this is some bullshit. Like, that would be my defense. I wouldn't have anything else. Let me go back and watch my DVR, and I'll figure out some more terms to say. You're a fool if you don't have your own doctor, your own lawyer, and someone to help with your taxes. Like, those are the three biggest things, and yet I find people don't have a lawyer. Because I get calls all the time like, who's a lawyer that you would trust? And it's just kind of like, I'll give you names of people that I know, but it's like, how do you not know one? If you're 30, 40 years old, reach out and find one. Just so you need them down the line, because chances are you're going to do something really dumb, or someone's going to do something dumb to you, and you're going to need somebody.
Right.
What's your favorite thing when it comes to, like, in the workers' comp situation? Like, there's got to be some gratification when you get that person their money.
It's amazing. We actually are very fortunate because I would say the vast majority of our clients, and I mean, I hate to put a big number on it, but I'd say over 90% of our clients are like, thank you, appreciate what you've done for me. You have that small percentage of people who are very demanding and don't understand and take their stress out on you. but it's very gratifying when you have somebody say, "Hey, I appreciate what you did for me."
Is that the win for you?
Yeah. Oh, that's definitely the win. That's definitely the win.
So, because I want people to understand that, there's certain people that I was mentioning commercials earlier that it does very much seem like everything is you get some, I get some.
Right.
That can't be the end of it. Because when you just get a check, that's kind of like when you work on an assembly line. It's the next widget that goes through and I'm going to get paid for it. At some point, I would think that you would lose your soul doing that, where you're literally just doing this for the revenue, not because you meant something to someone else and helped them.
Well, right. I mean, it's like if you look at the employee surveys, right? When you look at the top 5 things, and it's funny because every survey is different on what the top 5 things are, but money is almost never the top one. And it's usually not in the top 3 it's usually like 4th or 5th.
Right.
Money is in what employees are looking for from their employers. Now, what I always tell my employees is, because I'm joking around, I say, well, I know that's bull crap, because if I quit paying you, you're not coming.
Right.
The first week we miss a check, next week nobody's here.
I'm actually thinking of 2 of your employees right now, and I think you should just not pay them and just see how that goes.
Just see how long it goes.
Yeah, and just tell them I said that.
So I'm sorry, Mike said that I can.
They'll totally listen. They'll get it.
But I guess my point is, even though everybody knows that money's the reason that you're doing this, because everybody has to pay their bills, when it comes to doing your work, you're looking for more than that. And we try to give this to our employees. I mean, this is one of the things that we're looking for is you want, when you're working, you spend 40 hours a week at a minimum doing that. That's a big chunk of your awake hours. It's too much to do and be miserable.
Right.
So you need to get something. It doesn't have to be fun and exciting, because everything can't always be fun and exciting, but it needs to be fulfilling. And there needs to be, at the end of the day, some sense of satisfaction that what I'm doing has some value. And so that's what we're looking for from our employees. And that's also what we're looking to deliver to our clients is just some, we want to feel like at the end of the day that what we did had value, that people appreciated it, that there was some benefit other than, well, we just got a few bucks on it. No, at the end of the day, would we be doing this and working this hard at it if we didn't make money? Probably not, because fact is everybody needs money to live. I can't go to the grocery store and say, hey, my job's really fulfilling, but I don't have any money.
You can. It will not work out well.
They won't give you the ham.
No. What I like is we have the streak continue going. We always end on a low, sad note. Stan, you're going to come back to do a second round of this, but we've got to end this show right now.
Okay.
But Stan will be back the next time you see this show. You've been listening to Broad Street Radio. We'll see you soon.